Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Boxing Coalition. My name is Cam. Joining me tonight, Naota, and we have a special guest straight from the Mixler chat, straight from the mean streets of Birmingham. Someone who's basically supported the coalition from day one. He was always riding with us when we first started, when we had like 2 people in the Mixler chat. He was one of them. Jas, what's happening, Jas, man? Pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for that introduction.
Yeah, man, that was all off the top of the dome as well, man. Unscripted. But
shout out to Jess from the chat.
Shout out to Jess. But it is a pleasure to have you on. Nikki, always a pleasure to have you on. Let's get into it. Hopefully Leon might jump on, swear, abuse a few people and then leave. So he'll do that a bit later on. But where should we start, Naota? Quickly, I just want to mention the most competitive fight of the weekend for me. Teddy Atlas versus Mark Kriegel, man.
Honestly, I really wasn't paying too much attention to the commentary, so you'll have to actually fill me in on that, to be real with you.
It was kind of hilarious just going back and forth. Kriegel kept, basically questioning him on Beterbiev and why has he not got Coling out of there yet and why is there such a big hype surrounding him, but Teddy was like, no, he's doing what he's supposed to do, man, Mark. Shut the fuck up. So, yeah, I had a dominant win for Teddy, to be honest. Mark was just, looked like he was just sat in the corner getting bullied, so it was quite hilarious at times. But, Nikki, what card should we start off with?
I guess the HBO one, because that was probably the most high profile, to be honest with you, I'd say.
The debut of Matchroom USA. Alright, I've only seen one fight. I had family visiting, so I couldn't watch all the boxing, so I did see the Jacobs fight. What did you think of the Jacobs performance? And I don't know, I thought your boy Arias let himself down a bit.
Yeah, I think he did too. I think as soon as he kind of felt Jacobs' power in the first couple of rounds, he really, his output dropped immensely. Because he was landing a couple of good shots here and there. There were moments where he would throw when Jacobs would throw, and he would actually catch Jacobs. He showed, I thought, some of the skill that I had kind of alluded to last week. But, at the end of the day, I think it was just a matter of jumping in too deep too quick. He wasn't ready for that level of step up, nor that level of hand speed and power, the snap on Jacobs' shots. Even though Arias wasn't quite, on his way to being stopped at any point necessarily. He did get stunned a couple of times, and I think that caused him to be a lot more negative, a lot more defensive than he otherwise may have been, and otherwise has been in a lot of his past fights. But a lot of people were really down on Jacobs for his performance, but not me. Honestly, I thought Arias would actually be more competitive than he was, and for Jacobs to basically pretty cleanly shut out a guy that I think is a pretty reasonably good boxer. I think it just shows, it was really just a matter of class, a matter of levels. And so Jacobs isn't, he's not like a Billy Joe Saunders where it's like if he steps down to a guy that's not a name value guy, he's still going to perform with a certain level of consistency. He's still going to dominate a guy that he should be dominating, even though he wasn't able to make his power be as pronounced as it has been in the past and just, waste him and get rid of him. He, at the very least, made it so that Arias stopped almost trying to win the fight so much as just trying to land a couple of shots here and there to see if he could make something of it, but otherwise wasn't necessarily willing to really put it all on the line and go out on the shield.
Naota, Beast Mode in the chat is asking you a question on your opinion of John David Jackson coming out after the fight saying Arias is basically fighting a cruiserweight in there.
Well, it really depends. I guess there's the idea that Jacobs, he missed the weight he didn't do the weigh-in for Golovkin and all that, and who knows, he probably was in the high 170s by the time he got in there with Arias. But I think most fighters in general, not just Jacobs and probably Arias as well, they're always gonna be heavier than they were at the weigh-in. But virtually 99% of the time. There's very few guys that will gain a couple of pounds overnight. It almost doesn't happen. It's really just a matter of boxing nowadays, a matter of combat sports in general nowadays. You're going to utilize whatever advantages you can have. And, we've seen in the past, sometimes that backfires. Sometimes a guy winds up going in there drained And I think, incidentally, we'll get to it a little bit later, but I think that may have happened with Beterbiev. But it gets to a certain point where it's about risk versus reward in that sense as well. Arias, I didn't think looked like some incredibly small middleweight, like somebody that could make 154, unless he was to drain maybe as much as Jacobs. I mean, Jacobs I'd say probably looked a bit bigger than Arias, but I don't necessarily think that the size is entirely the case for Jacobs being able to pretty cleanly defeat Arias. Jacobs wasn't necessarily always like this gigantic middleweight. I think over time, as most people age, they tend to kind of grow into their bodies, fill out, and such. And Jacobs definitely has as well. Maybe Arias, if he wants to gain that same type of advantage, he could make 154. But I mean, to complain about him, about how much Jacobs weighs, I mean, it's to complain about a rule that's been in effect for like 20-some years or 30 years, 30-something years. So, it's a non-starter really. And, if you can either try to get something together in order to get the rule changed, or you can deal with it. And so, or you can get dealt with in the ring, and that's pretty much what happened. So, if you're going to complain about it, then you might as well play by the same ball game, because at the end of the day, everybody does.
Yeah, I agree. He made the weight that they originally set the fight at. Whether he blows up afterwards, then
yeah. I see Beast Mode wanted me to shit on Jackson. Well, Jackson is bitching. That's what he's doing. He's bitching about something that he has plenty of control himself over. If he wanted Arias to not have a disadvantage size-wise, he could tell him to move down to 154, just like Sergey Kovalev had a fucking big weight advantage over half the guys that he fought as well. He's not some tiny fucking light heavyweight, so there you go.
What goes around comes around. Just, what did you think of the Jacobs fight and Eddie Hearn's first foray into the US market?
Yeah, I think Neil touched on a lot of points. I mean, Jackson's just pathetic. That's just a pathetic excuse. I think another excuse that Arias made was he had a blister on his right foot, so he couldn't plant his right foot down to throw his right hand. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like Nyota said, he just felt the power early, and then went into survival mode. Jacobs was faster, just a better all-round fighter. But Jacobs could have countered more and threw with Arias more, because Arias was throwing a lot of wild punches. So Jacobs was just like covering up and then launching his own attack rather than countering.
Yeah. Now, that's a good point. It's difficult, though, because Arias was so far on the outside. Like, it's hard to kind of counter a guy that's leaping in with, like, just a big right hand or a big left hook. Like,
and then clinching right afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. And his foot wasn't hurting when he was clinching all those times. So I don't know about that blister excuse, man. It just seems a bit bullshit after the day type of shit.
Well, it kind of is bullshit, considering the fact that, I mean, I'd be willing to bet there's plenty of guys that have won fights with blisters and shit on their feet. Like you can tend to that and be hurting and limping around the next day, as opposed to complaining about it right after the fight. It's like, fuck if you're injured or hurt or whatever. You got to fight to win. You can fucking lay down for a week and let that shit heal up, and without have food delivered to you or some shit. And if you want, you got to fight to win.
Exactly. But yeah, it's a shame that Arias is so negative, and you both guys said it, like he felt the power. But Jacobs, I was just saying to Just off air, Neota, it was kind of hilarious. I think there was a round towards the end, maybe the 10th or 11th, where Jacobs was gesturing to Arias to like stand there and fight rather than just run. And I thought, how the tables have turned, because you did the same thing against Golovkin. So what goes around comes around.
Yeah, I mean, somewhat. Although, Jacobs was still, at the very least, he was still throwing punches, still trying to win the rounds in the midst of all the movement that he was providing. With Arias, it wasn't so much of that as opposed to just trying to keep Jacobs from being able to catch up to him and hit him, with something that would potentially be the beginning of the end.
No, that's fair. I'm just being a dick, to be honest. But I do hate that when when it's in your favor, it's okay to do it, but when someone's doing it to you, then you get frustrated. But there you go.
Yeah.
What do you like to see next, Nicky? I know Max asked him afterwards. Maybe the winner of Billy Joe versus Lemieux, and then the winner of that maybe gets Canelo/Golovkin. You see that the route they're gonna take?
I mean, I think a lot of it depends on what happens between Canelo and Golovkin in the near future because, so part of me does and doesn't see a potential between Jacobs and Canelo, simply because, as explosive as he is, that could be a very dangerous kind of gamble for De La Hoya to be taken with Canelo. That isn't necessarily the greatest of rewards either. And not to mention the fact that I'd imagine that they'd probably want to get Canelo a belt again. So they would probably have first dibs on the winner between Lemieux and Saunders. Of course, Lemieux is like either partially or fully promoted by Golden Boy nowadays. So, that'd be a very easy fight to make. If not, the Saunders fight right after he beats Lemieux, which is, I think, the most likely possibility there. So Jacobs, he may have a tough situation ahead of him because he's kind of a high risk, low reward guy in comparison to some of the other guys at the weight. There might be issues making a fight with Charlo, for instance, even though I think that would be a great fight. Maybe Ryota Murata out there. I want to see him fight the best guys, pretty much. Which is no different than I want to see from any other weight class. But I think there's good fights out there for him. I think really just it kind of depends on the style match as to how he'll look in a given fight. But I mean the guys that I pretty much named are pretty much the only guys that I could see potentially beating Jacobs. I think he pretty well handle himself against just about anybody else in the division. So if those guys are going to be fighting each other and queuing up to fight each other, and he's kind of left out in the cold because of it, so be it. But hopefully that isn't the case.
Jas, I kind of cut you off when you were giving your opinion earlier, so have you got anything to add about the fight? And if not, what do you think going forward with Jacobs? I know he kind of repeated twice in his interview that he wants to stay active and Hearn wants to keep him active and he wants to be active, but what do you think?
Yeah, Hearn said Lemieux Saunders winner or GGG Canelo or Charlo. I think GGG Canelo will fight each other again. I know De La Hoya said that they might not because Canelo might fight Lemieux if he beats Saunders, but I think that's just like a negotiating tool. Yeah. Like they can just say to GGG, hey, we're going to fight Lemieux if you don't take 30% or some shit like that.
Yeah, basically getting by the balls.
Yeah, so, and yeah, definitely, I think they're going to have to go with Charlo then, because I don't see them getting, or the Lemieux Saunders winner, yeah. I would favor him to win both those fights. I think Charlo's output is too low. He just, I'm getting confused between the two Charlos. Yeah, the middleweight Charlo is the better one, but his output's still too low. And Jacobs is more experienced. So, yeah, that's it.
With the Billy Joe situation for me is interesting because I do see Billy Joe beating Lemieux handedly, but we all know Warren and Eddie don't really get along, so how that fight happens, I think, money's going to have to talk, and I don't really think Jacobs brings enough money to the table, and neither does Billy Joe in that regard, so I think that just financially and just with both parties, it's going to be difficult for that fight to get made.
Yeah, good point. I mean, everyone just wants to wait for Canelo because he's like the money ticket.
Exactly, he's the golden goose.
So you can just imagine Saunders fighting at the Copper Box if he beats Lemieux in like the summer, and then fighting Canelo if he beats GGG, which I think he will in like end of the year.
Yeah, like the Copper Box is his home these days, even though he sells out nothing. But all right, let's move on then. I didn't see the WAC fight versus Big Baby. Didn't get a chance to see it, so if you guys have, go ahead.
I thought that Miller did pretty well. Like I didn't think much of Walk to begin with, but he did land a couple of shots here and there on Miller. But I did get the sense that Miller was almost kind of allowing him to kind of hit him because he felt a little bit of his power in the first couple of rounds on a couple of occasions where they exchanged a bit, and he wasn't very impressed. So at that point, he kind of decided, well, if I get hit by something, as long as I'm able to get my own shots off and land them on Walk, then that's just what it's going to be. But he's not going to be able to hurt me with them, and nor did he. But I did think that Miller showed a pretty good amount of skill in there in the way that he was able to kind of bat down Walk's jab on occasion, or otherwise be able to kind of take something off of the punches by kind of catching it with his right hand and then either countering up underneath with either a left hook, a left uppercut, or sometimes like in combination with like 3-4 punch combos. It's like, to see a guy at heavyweight with using those kind of techniques and being able to punch a combination like that, I think is kind of a rare thing, and I think that's going to make him extremely difficult to fight. Not to mention just that, but also just the constant high pressure that he puts on you. And I think it was largely that high pressure that caused Walk to kind of, bottle it after a few rounds because, even though he was, throwing quite a few jabs and such, I think he's like slowly but surely, almost somewhat like Gerald Washington, albeit maybe a little bit slower. He started to believe in himself and being able to win the fight a little bit less each round. They wound up stopping it because, he had an injured hand and a broken nose, or a supposedly injured hand anyway. But, I mean, he broke his hand on Miller's head, and it just showed that, even as he was able to land a couple of clean shots here and there, Miller never looked for a second like he was hurt or stunned or anything like that to me. And I think he's pretty much he's one of those guys that rates just below like the elite tier of like Fury, Wilder, and Joshua at heavyweight. Anybody else, I think he's basically 50-50 against, if not more so. I'd like to see him against somebody like a Brazil next, and if he wins that, then he's every bit deserving of a world title shot because I mean he's really like one of those top 10, arguably top 5 guys.
Yeah, Nicky, I was secretly hoping you would use the whack was whack joke again, but you didn't provide it this time, so oh well. Josh, I think you were saying off air earlier that you caught this undercard fight.
Yeah, I was half asleep, but I think Nyoto was being very kind to Miller there. To me, he looked really slow. He throws a lot of arm punches because he's so slow that if he was to like put rotation into the shot or put his legs into the shot, he'll be telegraphing his shots. So he throws a lot of arm punches. I think Povetkin would knock him out probably late on. So I think, yeah, he's outside the top 5 for sure. He's got a great chin. I think he needs to lose some weight. That's it.
I like that big Michelin man body, though.
For what it's worth, though, he did lose a little bit of weight from this fight compared to the last one. And, I mean, he's basically said that, who knows if this is going to be true or not, because Arias said for fucking years that he was going to lose weight. But he said that he's going to try and keep cutting it down a little bit, which I think will help him to a level of, being able to up that work rate. Because if he's able to put on even more volume than he already does, that makes him like a kind of a unique type of a challenge for everybody at heavyweight, because there's not too many guys that can provide that level of pressure volume and just kind of physicality on you, because as Cam, like you just alluded to, he has almost like one of those like world's strongest man type builds. He's not this cut lean athlete. He's just big. He's just a big fucking guy and he's coming at you. He fights almost like you'd imagine like an ex-football player would fight, like how you would have imagined like Gerald Washington would have fought, as opposed to being very safety first. And so, I think he's a legit challenge for anybody there. Povetkin is kind of a wild card because, I mean, who knows how much a variety of performance-enhancing drugs may have helped some of his performances in the past versus not. And the same with Ortiz. And it's like I kind of joked about last week, but I'm kind of semi-serious about it. I'd like to see Ortiz versus Povetkin. It's like if these guys are going to juice against other people, might as well let them juice against each other. And then, Miller can at least, I think there's other guys for him to fight too. Like I mentioned, Brazil or Ugano or whoever else.
Yeah. Just quickly before we move off topic, Miller is I think, co-promoted now by Hearn. He obviously was on this undercard at the event. And do you see it as a kind of cock-blocking move by Eddie, as he did with Luis Ortiz, or do you think he'll genuinely put him into competitive fights, possibly White or possibly AJ, or will he just kind of take him in a different direction?
I think AJ is such a gravy train. Like, there's so much cash to be made off him. They need opponents. So I think Hearn was saying AJ might fight Miller next.
I could see that, have Joshua versus Miller and then White versus Wilder to build up to, Wilder versus Joshua. I could see that easy.
Yep. And I think Miller's just too slow and he'll get knocked out. I mean, I thought he lost the first 2 rounds against Wack. And his legs are too slow and his arms are too slow.
I kind of want White versus Miller just so White gets beat up. I fucking hate White. Absolutely hate the guy. But you guys got anything else regarding this Matchroom USA card, or should we move on?
There was one other fight on the HBO portion of it. Cletus Selden versus Roberto Ortiz.
Is that motherfucker still around?
Yeah.
You just see his name on undercards, but you never see him fight.
Yeah. Well, I know people remember years back me kind of going ape shit because of the fact that people were considering him a dangerous opponent for Lucas Matisse. And then, as I said was going to happen, Matisse fucking smoked his ass in 2 rounds, in do round. And pretty much the same thing happened here with Selden. So although there was a cut, I guess, looked like from a head clash. And but otherwise, I mean, Selden just went in there. And they kind of did like what you see a lot of like film of like old school fighters kind of do. He just went in there and just bum rushed him and kind of utilized like a lot of that inside technique. Really like putting heavy power on all of his shots. He's a short guy with short arms, so he's probably going to be fighting everybody in that division is probably going to be taller than him. So that's pretty much the perfect style for him to have. He did test positive for some sort of steroid or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, like a year and a half ago or so. But he's been clean since, I guess. But regardless of whatever happens, the thing about testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs is like, they, supposedly they're gonna come down harsh on you one day, and then the next day you already have a fight scheduled like 5 months from now or whatever the hell. So it's doubtful any of these guys that test pos at any time are ever gonna be like face any sort of like actual lengthy penalty. So, I think he's a fun addition to 140 pounds, especially now that Crawford's moved up. I think he could be in some pretty good fights there, depending on the opponent.
All right, let's move on. Just you choose the next venue. Should we go to Fresno, California?
Yeah, sure.
All right, this is it's a bit interesting because I want your guys' opinion on Beterbiev's performance. I don't know. To me, it just seems like, okay, I've not really been 12 rounds, so I've got that kind of question mark in the back of my head, so let's just put the rounds in. Because it seemed like once he reached the 12th round, he's like, okay, let's fucking beat the shit out of this guy now, get him out of there. And that's exactly what happened. It's like, he reached that landmark of 12 rounds, he's come out there with bad intentions, every shot's just like a clubbing power punch, that baseball bat fucking shot, and obviously it's not a good look when the crowd are booing you after the second, third round and continuously doing it for the rest of the fight, but I kind of give him a pass for that. I know I kind of criticised Gvozdyk for a similar thing where if you're better than the guy, just take him out, but I just think Beterbiev needed that tick so he knows that, look, now that I am a champion, it was for the vacant IBF, now he knows that he can go the rounds rather than take Coling out in 2 and then fight Bivol and think, well, shit, I know I've got the power, but I've not been the rounds. Bivol's been, rounds a few times, been the distance. So that's just my weird opinion on it. Like, what did you guys think? Just start with you first.
Yeah, he had been out like I think 11 months, I just think he's just more risk averse than like some of the other Eastern Europeans, like Triple G. So I've seen it in previous fights where he's like kind of tentative to close the distance because he's not willing to take risks. But Coling just had the high guard, survival mode. Maybe he was trying to get in some rounds, and maybe it was a bit of rust. I think the way to beat him is just from the outside. And I think we got some great fights with him and Kovalev or him and Bivol coming up.
Yeah, Gvozdyk. Even though there are promotional situations, I think a lot of these fights can still be made. But I don't know. I was impressed with his jab, even though I was hoping that he would like throw more power punches earlier on. The jab was on point. I think he just fucking school Coling with the jab most of the fight. Yeah, I was impressed. Obviously, to a point, you just think that I just think he carried him most of the fight. But Nailton, what did you think?
I mean, I somewhat agree with you, and as I mentioned earlier, I thought, who knows, maybe he might have been like drained for this fight or something. Maybe he didn't necessarily take all the precautions of training really hard and being able to make weight easy, as opposed to, he's a big guy. He's a big guy. He's a guy that most likely will be finishing his career at cruiserweight at some point, and probably only has avoided it because as we've come to realize, or as I think more casual fans have come to realize, that cruiserweight's actually a pretty dangerous division as it stands. So some of those guys that had been kind of overlooked are now getting their shine thanks to the World Boxing Super Series. But yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of people kind of criticizing Beterbiev and saying like, oh, maybe his power is really not all that real. But the thing is, this fight was really the anomaly here. And a lot of the time, it didn't necessarily look like he was really putting full force on his shots. A lot of the time, and not only that, but Coling, he may have, and I think he probably does have a pretty good degree of punch resistance. Not only that, but he was pretty much high guarding the entire time. And so, Beterbiev's shots weren't always necessarily landing clean, but even still, he made it so that Coling, not unlike Arias earlier, he really wasn't necessarily like putting it out there to try to win the rounds. He was in there making the rounds difficult for Beterbiev in a strategic and a technical sense, but not so much in a physical sense where he was like really doing damage to Beterbiev. There was a few good shots that he landed, but there was never a doubt in my mind that Beterbiev was going to win the fight and pretty much win almost every round of that fight. I didn't think Coling really provided that much of a competitive aspect beyond making himself kind of a difficult guy to knock out, as opposed to a difficult guy to be able to outbox or outwork at the very least. Beterbiev actually showed some pretty good hand speed on some occasions, showing that when he's not just teeing off trying to land home run shots, that he can put some pretty good combinations together as he did. And yeah, it was kind of funny to see him in the 12th round all of a sudden trying to stop Coling, just going out there like a bat out of hell, and so like that started to make me question myself a little bit as to if he may have been drained, or who knows, maybe it's like it took him a while to warm up, and then finally, it's like he was finally the Beterbiev that we've kind of seen him in the past to be later in that fight. But I mean, he's a champion now. He probably deserved to have a belt beforehand. I could see some validity in the argument you were making about him maybe carrying Coling in order to go the rounds and to kind of prove to himself to kind of get over maybe that mental psychological hurdle for future fights that where he may have to go a significant number of rounds, because he can't just blast the guy out of there. And yeah, I mean, hey, we've known him to be one of the best fighters at light heavyweight for a few years now. The only thing that's unfortunate is that I think he's supposedly suing his promoter now, Ivan Michel. So that could make it so that we don't necessarily see too much of him in the near future, which would be unfortunate because, it's like it's pretty much been a waiting game with this guy. We've been waiting to see if the Beterbiev versus Stevenson fight would get made pretty much the last 2.5 years, and it never did, which is most likely why he's taking it to court. But it's just unfortunate to see a guy with I think we all think that has a tremendous amount of talent almost kind of go to waste sitting on the shelf for too long, or because of promotional issues, or because he's not as big of a draw as Stevenson, say, and so maybe they were protecting Stevenson.
Yeah. Naota, while you were talking, I just figured out exactly why the fight played out that way. Basically, all of Beterbiev's friends in Russia were doing live in-play betting, and he was boring on purpose for 11 rounds, so the odds for a 12th round knockout were ridiculously high, and all those mofos just made some mad cash that night. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Made a killing.
Exactly.
No, he's got.
I remember. I think in the last round of the Pacquiao Bradley fight, the shit went to 200-1 for Bradley to win a decision. That shit was hilarious.
Sorry, Just, what were you gonna say?
No, Nyota talked about his power. Dude, the power is legit, super legit. I think in terms of strength on the inside with no hip rotation, there's no one that generates more power than him.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah.
I think Colling just has really good, really good amount of punches. This is good chin, pretty strong body to be able to take the body shots, and he was very defensive, and he was probably bracing for Beterbiev's power the whole night. And that's pretty much what kept him up.
Yeah.
He's the anomaly. So people, I hate it when people start questioning a fighter's power just because they have an opponent that manages to survive it. You'd think that, if he's been knocking out 90% of his opponents and then this guy fucking survives, you think that it would be obvious that that this guy has a good chin and those other guys didn't, or this guy has good defense and or a good chin as well and those other guys didn't. But go figure.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Unless you guys have got anything else to add about Kovalev, we can just go down the undercard.
No, that's it.
All right. Naoto, I was just pleasantly surprised about, because initially over here, the way Box Nation promoted it, it seemed like Beterbiev was the top of the bill, but obviously you know better than us being over there. Really, people are out there to see Jose Carlos Ramirez.
Yeah,
they filled that arena out. The crowd was lively. Attendance was good, man. I was really shocked.
Yeah, he's built up a really good following there in the Central Valley. It's between NorCal and SoCal. It's kind of a underserved community, I'd say, in terms of not just boxing, but just a lot of things, a lot of financial things and such, and go up to Fresno, and he's been packing it in there, man. He's pretty much had half of his fights there. So, they've successfully, I think, built a good, solid hometown following for him. Not unlike, I guess, what kind of Crawford's managed to build in Omaha, Nebraska, albeit, Crawford's a lot further along than somebody like Ramirez is. But he showed up and he showed out against Mike Reed. Mike Reed was another kind of a fellow kind of prospect / contender going into this fight that was reasonably highly thought of by a fair number of people. And Ramirez made quick work of him, man. He just went out there like a bat out of the hell. I've seen Ramirez in the past sometimes look somewhat vulnerable at times, but when his hands are moving, his whole body's moving, and he's just in a solid rhythm, he's going to be a really difficult fighter to beat. He puts everything goes to the body and to the head. Put down Mike Reed with a nice kind of left hook, up high on the head, and then in the follow-up, he started hurting him to the body. Reed wasn't throwing back, so the ref finally stopped it. And second round knockout going into what's looking like it's going to be a WBC vacant title fight between him and Amir Imam. That's a mouth-watering fight if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, and Imam was on the undercard as well. I don't think it was televised. I know the commentary saying Christina Pancho did some of the undercard commentary, and she was like, "Oh yeah, Imam fought earlier." But whenever I hear Mike Reed, I always think, "Who? Mike Jones? Mike Jones?" But Just, I presume you saw this fight.
I saw the knockout. I don't think Reed expected him to
come out so fast.
Yeah, and trade in the pocket. I think he expected Ramirez to kind of box, but Yeah, he came out strong, man.
Yeah. Naota, the stoppage, that was one of the points where Mark Kriegel and Teddy were kind of going back and forth. You think the stoppage was okay, or?
I mean, it wasn't the greatest stoppage in the world, but I wouldn't call it a bad one. Reed wasn't throwing back. He had been dropped. He really got dropped twice because the second knockdown wasn't called. It was called a slip, but he was still hurt and still getting hit by punches. And after he got up from that, he didn't throw. I mean, and then he started complaining of a low blow from a clean body shot, looking at the ref like, "Help me!" And so at that point, it was over. When you're starting to look for alibis like that, it's over for you. So, I'm the type of guy that likes to see fighters get put down and then when they're not able to get back up, that's when the fight is stopped. But failing that level of kind of savagery, I think it was a good stoppage.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's it. I see our boy has come on with some sodium chloride.
Oh, Mr. Salt is in the house. What's happening, Leon?
You alright? How you doing? How was that card? I didn't watch any of that card. Did Eddie bring the Stardust that the Yanks have been crying out for?
Well, this card was the ESPN card, but
was that? Oh right, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I don't think there was.
I didn't watch any of this either.
I don't think there were any classic songs getting played in New York. I didn't hear any Sweet Caroline, but I might be wrong.
No, he didn't play that. I heard that.
Wow, that's disappointing.
Yeah,
but
that's one of his power cards.
Yeah. Well, Liam, let us just finish this card and then
go for it. Yeah. I didn't watch any Yank cards.
Why not, man? Come on, bro.
I was away this weekend, so it was difficult enough to watch any of the fights I did watch.
I'll let you off, to be honest. I had a similar situation. I just didn't have time to watch everything. But, Naota, I don't know if you got the Alex Saucedo's fight televised, trained by Abel Sanchez. I mentioned him a few times, and it's still the same old situation, man. Taking him pretty slow. Vittori wasn't really that good. Dropped him a couple of times, especially the last one. I think it was a clean left hook, and guy was laid out. But he is young. He's still 23, but I think a step up is needed now.
Yeah, I actually didn't get a chance to see that one. I started the telecast off with Better Be of. I think that was televised, but I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet.
Just you see it?
No, bro.
No problem. And the last one I urge you guys to watch. If you want to watch a fun 4-rounder, watch this fight. It was between Brian Loire, who I think must be like Ramirez and from around the area because he was getting some really good support from the crowd. He fought a guy on his debut, and Loire, it was only his second fight. The guy on his debut, Eric Rodriguez. Oh, bros, man. These two guys were just going at it, just like bombs away, landing clean. It was just a fun 4-rounder, man. You guys definitely got to watch that. But that was about it for this card in Fresno. We'll go back to Leon. So which fights did you see? Because we've covered the 2 young cards, which you didn't see. So that's kind of perfect timing. So where do you want to take it?
I saw Josh Taylor, and I saw... I saw like the last 5 or 6 rounds of Josh Taylor. I missed the beginning, and then I saw the whole of the Smith Williams fight. So whichever everyone saw, let's start there.
Let's start off with the Taylor Vazquez then. What did you think, Leon?
Yeah, he looked really, really good again, especially finishing. Like, he seems to have the ability to come on strong as the fight goes on. Like, I wouldn't say he starts slowly, but he definitely seems to be a fighter that likes to build up a head of steam, like Now often says. Like, I think if you wanted to beat him, you might want to go after him early. But because Vazquez was like giving him issues first 4 or 5 rounds. From what I was told, I missed the first couple, but when I turned on the fight, he was having a few issues. But once he got going, I mean, that body shot was just beastly, wasn't it? He's very good. Very good.
Yeah, the final one was
much better than Williams. And I think Jamaica was saying, it's like, after watching that fight, it's like, yeah, Smith and Williams on a level below. This kid's got like places to go. You know, like he made the biggest statement of the weekend, I think, over on this side of the things.
Yeah,
because that's a legit guy. Whatever anyone says, like he's 30, he's only lost to kind of good guys.
Or
he doesn't
controversial losses.
Yeah, he doesn't make you look good doing it. Where Josh Taylor started to look really good doing it in those last couple of rounds, didn't he? Like he started to break him up, and he got touched as well, and so it looks like he can take it. I mean, that guy's no big puncher, but you know he handled the shots he did. That he took the shots that landed well. So I mean, I think it was a lot of pluses for him. Like it's not meant to be easy all the time, is it? You've got to be challenged, and I think this guy gave him enough of a challenge for us to see that he has potential to go and challenge the best guys.
Yeah, now Vazquez is very awkward, man. He throws punches from weird angles. He'll kind of throw a few and then grab. And that was quite often, I think, that was some of the frustrations that Taylor was having early on, where he couldn't really let his shots off because it'd be defense, and then he'd get grab hold of, and then you can't really... It's kind of stop-start then. You can't really start fucking working because the guy keeps just frustrating you. But when he kind of got past that stage and like the stage of the cut, it was in a bad place above his eye. But his corner did a really good job on it. And
but it didn't bother. I don't think it bothered him. He seemed to take it in his stride.
No, that's not thinking that. It's a good thing that because some guys fall apart if they get a cut. But props to him. Only thing I maybe would say is he did kind of get clipped with a lot of silly, unneeded shots, I thought, which he shouldn't. For the level of the pedestal that I put him on, I think, should he be getting caught with that little left hook and that right hand? But he just seemed like he was in kind of route one, just wanting to go for the kill, especially towards the end when like he was really digging those body shots in. And I love how he just rolls the counter and just digs to left hook to the body, man, and he counters to the body so well.
But the thing is, like, I know he's getting clipped with a few things, but you still look at him and think he has everything he needs to not get hit by that shot if he does it properly. Do you know what I mean? It's not like there's a glaring there's not glaring weaknesses going, oh, that's a problem. It's more like, tighten it up a bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and to be fair to him, I think Vazquez hits just about anybody with a lot of those shots because of the fact that he's throwing at such weird angles. Like it's like his hands will be down at his waist, but he'll throw overhand shots, and then his hands will be up at his chin, and he'll be throwing underhand shots like uppercuts and stuff. Yeah. So it's it's like he's really good at kind of throwing you off as to which angle in particular he's going to throw it from next. Because sometimes he'll start with the left, sometimes he'll start with the right. Sometimes he'll start up high and go low. Sometimes he'll start low and go high. And the fact is, like, he'll be clinching you, and then he'll break his own clinch and then hit you, like, as he's breaking his own clinch.
Yeah, he does all that. Yeah. Look,
he's really he's really slippery. But the thing is, he doesn't necessarily have like a lot of power. So I think from a technical aspect, he provided Taylor with a good technical challenge that he's really not going to see too much of. At least not to the level of degree that Vazquez is able to provide it. Even though Vazquez, I think, is a bit worn. He's over the hill. He's not in his prime anymore.
He's over the hill, but the challenges he lays out because of his style, are the same, aren't they?
His ability, like his technical ability, is as good as anybody's got at 140 now. So the only thing that anybody could really match is if they're able to come close to that, as well as provide that kind of that physical danger, the power and such.
But who's smashed him up? Who's ever smashed him up properly?
Nobody.
No one. No one's done that to him.
Yeah, Canelo couldn't do it, and neither could Tim Bradley. And that was at 140 and 147. So, go figure.
So it's a bona fide legit win in my eyes. Like
it's a very good win. It's really honestly, it's actually one of the better wins that somebody could have at 140, considering the top guys that are there right now.
And the way he went about it, you can't ask for more, man.
Yeah, it was a good win. I think Vazquez gave him some trouble, but I think he gives just about anybody some trouble. He's always giving people trouble. Even his recent loss that he had to Argenis Mendez, he gave the guy hell all 12 rounds of the damn fight. He got robbed against Mickey Bay, and here against Taylor, I think he would give those kind of problems to anybody, whether it was Prograis or Figueroa or any of those guys. He would give them just all kinds of issues simply because he's a slippery guy and he's very deceptive with the way that he goes about things. So, for Taylor to kind of pull through, never lose confidence in himself, and hurt him. The thing is, he actually hurt Vazquez to the body as early as the second round. I saw there was a good left hook that he landed to the body, like kind of a left cross hook that he landed, and Vazquez buckled for a brief second or two. Props to Vazquez for being able to last several rounds beyond that, and still give him all kinds of issues. That's exactly the type of fighter that you really want to be stepping up against, a guy that's not going to get dissuaded from one shot. And he's going to continue, outboxing you in spots, and then you have to overcome that in order to kind of pull through and make your power and physicality work for you, which is what he did.
Cam, when's the last kind of British guy we had who had skills and was a body puncher? Like, he uses those headshots to open up the body. He's good on the inside. Like, Ricky Hatton was a bulldozer who got to your body. This guy sets you up to the body. Like, we haven't had one of those in a long time, as far as I can remember. Like, it gets more exciting as it goes on, and like, I feel there's no jumping on and off a hype train. Everyone's been on this. Everyone's pretty much convinced about this guy, but it's just fucking great to see a guy have that from over here. Like, and on the inside, we don't have inside fighters, and like, he's one of the most exciting talents we've had. Like, just as in a skill set, we just don't see that fighter from over here, do we?
Yeah.
No, and I 100% agree. But one thing I was a bit disappointed again was he neglected his jab a bit. Like, he kind of throws the jab just to kind of step in and get close to do the body work, which is fine because his overall outcome is to work the body, but I would just prefer a kind of stiffer, meaningful jab. But
bit more snap to the head, those punches to the head have a bit more on them.
Yeah, that's just me. I do like a good snappy jab, to be fair.
And you're right, and the thing is, he has the ability to do it. It's not like we're thinking, oh no, he can't do this.
Yeah.
So you're seeing the flaws and going, like, if McGuigan's a good trainer, he should see these things as well, like, and should be able to improve him. Like, he's got everything he needs in his pupil there, so it's kind of like pressures on him as well to make sure this guy fulfills his potential.
That is true. Jas, what did you think of Taylor's performance against Vazquez?
I only saw the knockout, but from what I saw from the knockout, he threw a good feint right uppercut to bring Vazquez's guard in, and then he threw a right hook around the guard. So that's really smart boxing, and he's obviously a very well conditioned athlete to like string that many shots together in the 9th round, and he's never been in the 9th round in his career, so it's quite impressive.
Yeah. When I watched it live, I actually thought the body shot that dropped him, it didn't look that powerful. I was like, right, like, that's the shot that dropped him. But having said that, there were a barrage of body shots earlier as well, so that might have just been destroyed, that broke the camel's back. But yeah, man, that final shot, initially I thought, wow, like, what happened there? Because I thought, okay, he's going to get up on the 6th or the 7th, and he didn't. And I was like, oh shit, man, he stopped Vazquez. And then he's offering him to go out for a drink afterwards, which is very Scottish, man. Props to him, that was quite funny. Everyone's talking about it, like, the broadcasts were talking about it, how open the 140 division is. We've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. What kind of path do you think the McGuigans will carve for Taylor? I'll start with you, Leon.
Well, like, it feels all a bit of a... Like, I don't really... Where are we at with the belts? Like, are they all just open because of Crawford at the moment?
Yeah.
Technically, yeah. Imam versus Ramirez is going to be for the vacant WBC. The Lipinets filled the IBF. Bartholomew Relic 2 is probably going to be for the WBA, and the WBO hasn't been filled yet. But
I know what the WBO is,
WBO is going to be Terry Flanagan versus someone, isn't it? I think that's going to be trying to set up.
I'd fight him. Fight him now.
I think he's fighting someone else.
Probably Maurice Hooker, because he's number 1.
Yeah, he's fighting Hooker, yeah.
Well, I would try and get that Flanagan fight if I was the McGuigans.
That makes sense.
Let your boy go on to Channel 5. Might not be happy, but go to BT, because I think he can beat Flanagan. Like, he's a naturally much bigger. He's going to be a bigger guy. Like, I mean, I'd take that fight now.
We did actually discuss this because it fell under the radar, but whoever handles Terry Flanagan's Twitter account, was basically calling everyone under the sun out, and then just thought, okay, I'm going to 140 now. I was like, well, why the fuck were you calling everyone out?
Well, that's how his career has been under the radar.
Join him at 140.
Exactly.
He's been under the radar forever, Cam. Like,
he stays.
You might as well cash him out, man. If you were Frank, you'd let him, and they wanted that Taylor fight, you'd let him fight him, because if he beats him, that's his best. That's his big win, isn't it?
100%. Like, if that fight gets made, let him go over to Channel 5, get those viewing figures if he beats him, and then he'll bring back those new fans back to BT Sport / Box Nation.
Or the other way around, I don't mind which one it is. I'm sure Taylor's got no issue with that fight, but let's see if Flanagan. So if I was the McGuigans, I know it's difficult because it's going to be as set as it's up to the governing boards to pick these things. I imagine you're never quite sure, but you would kind of petition for that fight with that governing body, and you just call their bluff and go, I want to fight him. I'll take that fight, and just see what Flanagan's saying. He wants these big fights, and then if he says it's too small a fight for him, then we know it's bullshit, because it's not too small a fight.
Yeah,
he's done fuck all. No cunt cares.
No, it's true.
Really,
Josh was asked in the post fight who he would like, and he said he'd like to maybe go down the European route, which kind of makes sense because, as Naoto's saying, like, a lot of the vacant belts are tied up by people either, number 1, number 2 are going to fight each other. So, yeah, it makes sense. Maybe go down the European and try and make a big British fight, as you say, maybe Flanagan or.
But Cam is only good enough if he's just beating a good guy, right? So he can have a European title kind of thing shot now while he's waiting for the other belts, but he doesn't need another 4 or 5 fights now. I don't think he does. With that, how 140 is now.
No, I'm not saying 4 or 5.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. Yeah,
maybe,
exactly. But he can only get one. I think he should only take one
possibly
fight and
2.
Go for it.
Yeah, maybe the European next. Now he's got a cut, so he's going to be probably out for a bit.
Yeah,
European next, and then either a world or a kind of former former maybe champion or something, and then go for the title. But yeah, 2 fights maximum.
Yeah, because that division's not strong enough. It's not there for the taking. That's too easy and simplistic to say because of the point in his career. But he's got a big say in the next 18 months in what happens in that 140 division. I think we can rush him that. Because what else? Who's he gonna I just think if you beat a guy like he just beat, everything the next 3 or 4 fights could be filler if you're not going to test yourself against a guy that good. And there isn't a guy in Europe with a European belt as good as him. Yeah, no, there isn't.
No, I agree, but
yeah.
Sometimes when someone becomes successful, Channel 5 are going to just start putting up slots just because he's getting views for him. So it sometimes happens. Just in that type of situation where money talks.
Yeah, but they're not making enough. I don't think those McGuigans and them are making enough money to think, we can just sit here and cash a few checks. Do you know what I mean? No, they need that belt.
That is true.
But we can be brave with his career because we don't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is
so
true.
We go, fight Crawford tomorrow, but it doesn't matter, does it? What we say, really.
And then
that's what I would do. I'd just go for it, man.
And then when we lose, we shit on him the next day. But
you couldn't shit on him because it all looks too good. It's not. It's not a risk being on that hype train, I don't think.
I'm just joking, but just what do you think quickly about the progression of Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, he could be the best in the world now that Crawford has gone up. I mean, I think he beats Barthélemy, Relic, Barroso. I think he's too technically sound for those guys. And Mikey Garcia probably wouldn't beat him, but he's only 26, so in 4 or 5 years he'll probably be at welterweight, and he can have some huge fights at welterweight, in 4 or 5 years against Spence and whatnot.
No, totally agree. if Spencer's still there at that time. He's a big dude as well. He'd probably be up fucking middleweight by then. But are we all done on Taylor?
Yeah.
Did anyone see any undercard fights? I haven't, apart from my girl Chantel. I had to watch Chantel, and she basically...
I haven't seen nothing, Cam.
She beat up a fat woman, and then kind of hit her with a kind of belt line / low blow, and then she kind of complained, and then the ref stopped it. But up until that point, like, Chantel was just fucking beast mode on her and just fucking beating her up like a bag. So it was very one-sided, and that was about it. Just, did you see any of the undercard?
No.
I think we saved our time, to be honest. I know some people like Overbrook saying the Eastern fight was decent, so maybe I'll...
Yeah, I heard that was good.
I have got it recorded on my Skybox, so maybe midweek I'll go back and watch it. But shall we move on to the weird location for the Williams-2 fight? Because I don't know if you noticed, Leon, but by the time the fight was happening, the place was fucking empty.
Was it? It was difficult to tell on that Periscope I was watching it on, Cam.
So you've not gone back and watched it then, no?
Oh, no, I did, but I didn't really kind of take in all that stuff. Like, I was just like, let's get to the first bell, you know. But, yeah, it was always going to be a weird place. I mean, were there any, like, Geordies on that card, on the undercard? Is that why it cleared out? There's that Foot guy, right? He's a local kid. Yeah,
I think Leather's kind of a bit local as well. But, yeah, it was a shame that such a good rematch on paper really didn't have the crowd participation. But that's just fucking worrying, isn't it?
Yep, there you go. But maybe he doesn't trust the Smith to sell in Liverpool. He doesn't trust Williams to sell in Wales. So he kind of got he's built himself an excuse by putting it in a different place, you know.
Well, no, I don't think he trusts Williams at all. Like, just...
Oh, no, they hate Williams.
Yeah, like, I was talking to Jess before we just started the show, and Williams would be, as Jess said, like, ideal for Hearn to just snap up, really, because Hearn's constantly said the last couple months about our friend, his name...
Cheeseman.
Yeah, Cheeseman, that he wants to pick up the European strap, and why not fight Williams, man? That's a fucking great fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, they should just snap. I mean, Hearn needs people as well, so I would snap him up if he has the chance, because I don't know, like, that kind of relationship's a bit fractious. It seems like now, you know.
Yeah.
Especially after all the kind of fallout of everything, it just feels.
Yeah. But
it's just a weird. The whole thing, fight was weird. The venue was weird. Commentary was fucking mental.
Yeah,
everything about it was just really like.
Even like
Williams is
like,
a weirdo.
Williams like
disgusting.
He didn't mind like losing. He was like, yeah, good luck to him. He's all right, but
I hate all that shit. Like at the end of a fight, I hate seeing that. You're all friends now.
You want him to like spit on him and like leave the ring, don't you?
But no, I shake his hand. But you don't start hugging the guy and fucking, you know, congratulating him, hugging that fucking creep Gallagher and all these. You know, it's just like, yeah, you know, the result is what it is. Shake his hand and fuck off. Like they don't like each other. They don't, and like they don't respect each other. Oh, I really respect you after sharing the ring. They fucking hate each other. Like they're just lying, and we all fucking see it. And none of us want to see that shit.
Well, you brought
I don't know about you, but that's how I feel. I don't want to see that shit at the end.
Well, let's get into the fight, though, and you brought up a name I want to discuss with you, Gallagher. Gallagher had a different game plan, Leon. What the fuck is happening to the world?
I think Smith went rogue.
He just did it on his own.
He got off a plantation.
He said, like, fuck this, I'm not doing that same shit again, I'm trying something new.
Yeah, he's been, like, watching, like, you know, Larry Holmes videos and, like, at home and boxing in the kitchen, like, building his own plan. Because I mean, I hate to say it, but, like, he had the right idea. That was the right idea to deal with Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I scored it to Williams, but it was a very, very close fight. I mean, so the scoreboards were ridiculous, but there's something about that. I really, you know, I've always been a big fan of him since I saw him on that German undercard. But I don't know. There's something not right there, Cam.
In big fights, he just doesn't.
Just
Sometimes
throw your hands, man. Especially those mid to late rounds. It just wasn't. He just didn't impose himself quite enough.
Yeah, I think there were opportunities where he should have thrown a lot more, and he didn't. We talked about it last week, whether maybe him throwing so much early on in the first fight and maybe not judging the pace properly left him a bit gassed towards the end of the first fight, and maybe he tried to,
But it's like he gassed himself out by worrying about the gas tank. Do you know what I mean?
Like nervous
last rounds.
Yeah. I don't know,
Smith nicked those last 2 rounds. He nicked them, and that's, the scorecards were fucking ridiculous. But on a lot of people's cards, fans' cards, who seem to be able to score a lot better than judges for some reason, I don't know if scoring at ringside is a good thing anymore. They should just be out the back. But people had it by a couple of rounds, didn't they? Either way. Yeah, no one had those scorecards. No one, apart from those 2.
It was kind of Smith just nicking it, Williams just nicking it, or a draw, which, as is common these days, I had a draw.
Of course you do, Cam. That is like Cam bingo. But I don't think Smith did enough to win it personally, but he did enough to get a draw. So if I'm saying that, it must mean that's a close fight, isn't it? Yeah. But I still feel Williams won it, but his lack of belief lost him that fight, kind of. That lack of that to just push himself over the line. It was just something missing. Chemo called him a pussy, which I think is a bit too harsh, but something's not right with that kid. It seems like to me. Is it Lockett? I mean, people, I know a lot of people have been turning on Lockett for a while, but I don't know what it is, but it's frustrating to see, because now we're getting told we see some boxing masterclass from Smith, and he did a very simple game plan and nicked a fight, I think. But those scorecards were ridiculous, Cam.
No, they were indeed. But just what did you think about the fight overall? Firstly, who did you have winning the fight?
I had Williams clearly. I thought he won the first 5 rounds. I gave Smith the rounds 6, 7, 11, and 12. The commentary was just fucking ridiculous.
Regarding that, Just, the situation with, Barry Jones being Welsh, do you think he sometimes overcompensates and, gives it to the other guys so he doesn't look biased?
Yeah, Gallagher did an interview at the public workout before the fight, and he was having a go at Rawling for not mentioning Smith landing a right hand in the first 30 seconds. Prick.
So do you think that kind of planted a seed into his head?
Yeah, and I think Warren must have had a word. It wouldn't surprise me if Gallagher said something like this to Warren: "Make sure your commentators are fair, or we're going to go to hell."
Oh, look, he was doing. If he's saying that in a public workout, he's you know what kind of fucking guy this is. He's probably causing all kinds of havoc before the fight, because Hearns alluded to it before, that this cunt's difficult to work with and difficult to match his guys with because he's so weird about it. But there's something going on at Box Nation. I don't know how to say this. I get myself in too much trouble. Liam Smith's new management company seems to have a lot of sway and power there now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
So, their great leader was out celebrating in his usual way and telling everyone else they're wrong, and so there's something weird going on with that as well. I'm now waiting for the knock on the door, and I'm safe.
All right, Naota, I know this is a fight you didn't manage to catch. You may possibly been trying to watch it while we've been talking, but it probably won't give you much of a, It was a long fight with the commentators did make a good point where it just failed to kind of catch fire. There were points, especially I think towards the end, like Williams had 2 big rounds, man. I think it was the 9th and the 10th where he was throwing a lot more and hooking off the uppercut, and both guys had a lot of success on the uppercuts, but it looked like it was just gonna catch fire, but it didn't. Almost a bit like Canelo versus Golovkin for a lot of people. But have you managed to catch bits of it, Naoto?
Yeah. I mean, I've watched pretty much most of it, as we've been talking about this fight and the other ones too. And you know, I can kind of see a draw and everything, but I can also see. I think I'd probably edge it slightly to Smith, because Williams just looked like he really gassed badly in the last few rounds, almost like Leon was talking about. It's like he gassed himself by thinking about gassing.
He definitely summed things up.
Yeah, Smith all of a sudden starts coming on and is landing, you know, really good clean shots on him, you know. And yeah, Williams is just like I don't know, he didn't let it hang out enough to get enough of those rounds in the bank in the early and the mid rounds. I think in order to, you know, clearly win them enough so that he could secure his place on the cards, and that's and then he allowed it to completely get away from him in those last couple with Smith coming on and finishing strong. So I mean, yeah, you know, if anything, you know, I wouldn't really disagree with Smith actually winning the fight, but it was a close one.
The issue is now I don't know if you saw the judges scoring, so one guy had it a draw, and what were the other two, Cam? Like one guy had him by.
Yeah, 117, 111, 116, 112, and then 113, 114.
They're too wide. He's fucked. He's fucked.
Yeah.
He had no chance of winning that fight.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because he got early. It's that madness. It's Ward again. They're giving him fucking rounds at the beginning of. And Mayweather's great trick where he win 3 or 4 rounds for doing nothing in the beginning. That's what happened there.
Yeah, they're giving him. Like they're giving him swag points, like like we know.
Yeah, he
that
looked
he's
good
a
moving around there.
Fighter. Yeah, exactly.
Those rangefinders were really snappy.
Yeah. Smith going backwards, so you got to give a point for that.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's like how Broner got rounds against Granados and shit. Well, he's the bigger name, so he won the round. Like what?
But Cam, what really the thing that came out of this fight, you're right, it didn't catch fire and the scorecards were terrible. But, I mean, for British guys, I was shocked by that commentary, and I know it doesn't really... But it does matter to the event, right, Cam? To the event of watching something, because events are important in boxing. But it definitely tarnished the whole thing. Like, listening to that kind of happen to him. Like, you felt the robbery so early on, didn't you? Like, you felt it, like, after round 4, I was like, he's fucked. He's got no chance.
Well, you sent me a tweet of Rawling, and he looked like he was trying to make up for some of the things he was saying in it. But basically, I think they kind of know they fucked up, and they were just kind of favouring Smith with almost everything. And, I just think it's one of those situations, Leon. Maybe what Josh was saying about Gallagher putting seeds in the mind and them overcompensating, and we always have felt that the Box Nation have always favoured Beefy, like in the first fight, in this rematch, in the fights that he had previous when he became world champion. Like he's probably been like, I use the term loosely, one of their stars, so they definitely put more weight behind him.
But I just didn't, and it was bad to see that Rawlings tweet. It just smelled of, like I said, it reeked of guilt. And it's like, and then he was like, no, it's not an apology. It's like, and then there's the other thing I can't stand. He said, we had a lot of grief from Williams fans. It's like, what about you had a lot of grief from boxing fans who could hear your shit? Like, there's people complaining who scored it for Smith, who are Smith fans going, what were you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't, that kind of... That Williams fans kind of is his saying that to see that we were hurt or emotionally attached to the outcome, where a lot of us were, but a lot of us weren't. So I just can't stand that kind of bullshit. Just come out and say, yeah, I fucked up. Like, if he just said I fucked up and maybe he knew he overdid it by saying that, and like we all loved him, but you can't let someone go full Sky mode and not call him out on it. And I know in the grand scheme of things, it's not the most important thing, the commentary, but for some reason it does seem to mean a lot to boxing fans, right?
Yeah.
We like to hear it called straight.
Yeah, no, like the feedback was crazy. My timeline was crazy, and then just looking overall, people's reaction about the commentary, man. If you just look through the thread of that tweet of Rawling, man, everyone was just shitting on him. I'm surprised he didn't close down his Twitter account. But
I'm surprised he didn't go on a blocking spree. But look, they're Box Nation. They say that's like the channel of for boxing and boxing fans. Well, what boxing fans is want you to fucking say something about this and not hide like fucking Adam Smith does and all those other fuckers over at Sky who only want to read nice tweets. If you're this proper boxing channel for proper boxing fans, something will be said about this. And I don't want to have to sit through a fucking hour-long Eiffel interview with fucking fish eyes to get it. They should release a press release or something so I can read it in 10 seconds and know we did the right thing and understand what their fans were saying to them. But it'll be an hour-long Eiffel thing where we're all cunts and trolls, right?
Yeah. That is how they will spin it. But
yep.
Quickly, just it seems so that Cotto will say his farewell, beat up Saddam Ali, vacate the title, and do we think Liam Smith will be fighting for a vacant sometime soon?
Yeah, probably. I don't see him winning. I mean, who is out there? Jarrett Hurd. Oh shit, that's the other champions. I don't know who's going to fight for the vacant belt.
Well, I don't know if it's up to date, but the fight news rankings have obviously Cotto at champion, Magomed Kurbanov first, Liam Williams second, obviously he's lost, Kanat Islam at third, and then Liam Smith in fourth, so it's probably going to be against that Magomed dude or the Islam dude, so yeah man, Warren loves a vacant WBO.
Yeah. Just going back to the fight real quick. I thought, Williams had this last surge in the 10th round, and then he just gassed. And that's like really worrying because the first 6 rounds were really slow paced.
Yeah.
And he was the one on the front foot. And when he gets tired, he just stands in the pocket way too long, and he's not smart, and then he gets hit too much. But I thought Smith was landing a lot on the gloves. Like they're not scoring punches, and I think if there wasn't any corruption, maybe the judges just thought those punches were landing, and maybe Nyota thought those punches were landing, but they weren't. They weren't. I watched it in super slow mo, guys.
Oh shit! Were you counting punches landed?
Yeah.
That's what I mean about the judging. Like, surely we must be able to work on something like where. I know there's been a million ideas to have 5 judges, you average it down, but I think there's got to be something saying for... You see more on TV, right? You just do. I just think you do.
Yeah.
But I've never been that close to a ring. I don't know, but it seems like it's just being on one side. It just seems like you're going to miss so much. And this shit keeps happening, and then are we just saying it's judging just in this... It's just judging in this country is just so bad, isn't it? It's nothing to do with this. Where they sit, actually.
Judging,
it's just we're in net.
Everything's so bad. Yeah. But are we all done on this fight? Should we move on?
Yep.
Undercard wise, I only saw one fight, and it was probably the fight of the weekend. Glenn Foot versus Josh Leather. Just a really fun fight. Light welterweights. Leather undefeated. Foot. I think he formerly lost to Eggington, obviously the higher weight, but no shame in that, and I think he had another majority loss, but that's just a fucking fun fight, man. Leather coming out, gets dropped. I had Foot as adjusted when he was talking off air, 5-0 up, plus the knockdown in the second, and he was just on his chest, he was just fucking... he was just brawling with him, just throwing lots of shots, and then the fight kind of took a weird twist. He got a point deducted for constantly hitting after the referee said break. There were points where they were both squaring up after the the bell went and like kind of like not headbutting, but you know when they kind of wrestle each other with their heads. Foot kept losing his gum shield. I don't know if it was just a badly fitted one or he was kind of opening his mouth after he was like throwing shots and getting caught, and his gum shield came out numerous times, and he was deducted another point later on for that offence. And yeah, I thought Foot nicked it. I thought Leather was pretty lucky to get away with the win, to be honest. Like majority of the fight, he was the one I thought getting hit with the cleaner shots, and there were times where he kind of held the center of the ring and he was more successful with the jab and the straight punches. But overall, yeah, man, I thought like it was a shame that Foot didn't win the fight. I'd love to see a rematch. There was one point in the 10th round that was pretty fun. Like Foot threw like a 3-4 point combination, and then Leather came straight back through like a 5-punch. Okay, some of them missed, but it was just like boxing at its best. Like you see, like one guy gives it all, and the other guy gives it straight back to him, and it was just a really fun fight to watch. I don't know if any of you saw it.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, go on. You go first, Jez. No, you go first, mate.
All right, thanks. Yeah, regarding the rematch, Leather said in the IFL interview, like he'll never give him a rematch. I think there's still some beef between them.
That's
pathetic.
Duck, man.
If you've got beef, go and beat him up again. What's wrong with these people?
He's like, I thought both of them. I mean, it was a really fun fight, but more so because of Foot. He was like pressing the fight. He fought like he knew like he wasn't going to get any favors on the cards. I think both of them were quite limited though. Like everything was just the jab and the straight right.
Yeah, I was amazed how like often Leather was getting hit with like basic punches. You're thinking, well, you're only getting hit with a 1-2, bro. That's like the fundamental in boxing. Like, how are you not blocking those shots or like the slipping them?
Yeah, go ahead.
How did he not see that the knockdown punch? It felt like an old Street Fighter move where you held down all the buttons and the punch powers up. You know what I mean? And he just stood there for ages and then just launched him. It was a great shot, but it was weird. He just stood so still. It
was, man. It was quite funny, that one.
Go on, Jess. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go on, mate.
That's all right. Yeah, he didn't move his legs enough at the start, like Leather. But then he like found a second wind, like the last 2 rounds, and was like throwing like crazy amount of punches. He didn't fight inside Leather. I thought the ref.
He can't. I don't think he can. Like he looks uncomfortable on the inside.
Yeah, he's very inexperienced, man. I thought the ref was a bit harsh on Foot.
In what sense?
The
deduction for the punching after he said break.
Yeah, because Leather did it a couple of times at the start of the fight, and he didn't say nothing to him.
Yeah, Leather did a few things, and yeah, he got warnings, but like it was never like a stern warning. But like Foot kept getting the stern warnings.
Yeah, and I think the only person that had any like sense on that night from Box Nation was Jamie Moore. Like he called out the commentary in the Smith-Williams fight, and he had Foot winning this fight, whereas Barry Jones had Leather up by 3 rounds. I mean, I thought Foot won the first 5 rounds, and he won a couple towards the end as well, like 9 and 10. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but definitely a fun fight.
What did Moore? I missed that. What did Moore actually say?
I don't know. I saw it on Twitter though. Everyone was giving him props for like calling them out. Apparently, yeah.
Wow. No, but it's just sad to see because I saw Foot won it as well, and it just seems like it's the old Eddie Hearn playbook. You know, just fuck the B-side.
Yeah, it's a shame. It is a shame, but again,
it was a good fight though.
Yeah, to the listeners, I think if it's out there in Daily Motion, it is definitely out there in Daily Motion. Just catch it. I think Davey Boy might have it as well. But
yeah, Davey Boy's got it.
That's what I saw. Yeah, just a fun fighter, man. Definitely go and catch that one. But that was all I saw on this undercard. Unless you guys saw anything else, you can go ahead now and give us your thoughts.
I saw a bit of just highlight thing of that. Is it Gorman? That heavyweight.
Yeah.
That heavyweight that's like 20 odd but got the hairline of a 50-year-old.
Mm-hmm. You can't be 6'2", 6'2", and weighing 18 stone.
Yeah, but
That's
what
not on, man.
that's what modern day heavyweights are. They're just big blobs.
No, but they're usually about 5 or 6 inches taller than that, aren't they?
Yeah, the box record got him at 6'3". On that fight, he was at just got a log.
He's got good skills, but he can't punch.
Is it just
but
me?
He doesn't have enough skills to not have a punch, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But he looks skilled, but he's just got no dig on him. If he had a dig on him, you go, all right, he gives someone a challenge. But I don't see him doing anything, man, especially in that shape.
No. Yeah, like 252 pounds he was in. And I hate fucking BoxRec now. Since they changed it all, like every 5 minutes you have to log in again. Like before, I was constantly logged in, and now you always have to log in.
Please log in so you can see the weights and all the shit that you actually want to see.
Exactly that. Yeah, I need to see that shit. Why can't you keep me logged in, please?
Yeah, it's not like they use your details for anything. You never get a fucking email from them or anything. So I don't even know why they need your details for. Just give it to us all free. I don't get it. Yeah, you might need it for the forums, but it's just fucking rubbish.
Yeah, no, I agree. But, yeah. Anyone else got anything on
Legendary BoxRec forums, the origin of Charlie Zelena.
Jas is a beast in those forums, man. He murders people in them, man.
Yeah,
Jas is a beast in every form. I've seen him on the boxing scene a couple of times, too.
No, boxing scene.
I see him in the, like... I'm like, oh shit, it's Jas.
Yeah, boxing scene's my home, man.
Yeah, I was getting mixed up. I thought it was a BoxRec your forum, but it's the boxing scene one. Yeah. Are we done on that card then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna. There was another card, the Showbox card. I'm not sure if any of you guys saw any of it. I wanted to talk about briefly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Showbox from Friday. I want to start actually since you guys were mentioning fat blob heavyweights. Junior Fa is a countryman of Joseph Parker, maybe the guy to possibly usurp him in the future. Samoan dude from New Zealand. Scored a nice first round knockout over Fred Latham. He looks pretty good, man. In spite of the fact that he's kind of a fat, sloppy looking guy, his technique doesn't look sloppy. He actually came in quite a bit lighter for this fight than he has in the past. He's normally in the 270s. He was 262 for this one. Latham, for his worth, it wasn't exactly in the greatest of shape either, but he was an undefeated guy. And Fa pretty much took him out like yesterday's trash and landed a good right hand and freaking knocked him out while Latham was pretty much still standing up, slumped over against the ropes, and took him a couple of minutes to properly recover. The guy looks like a pretty good prospect, I guess, to watch in the future. At heavyweight, might be one of those guys to really be a factor maybe in 2 years or so, because he's still relatively early on in his own career. Along with that was Charles Conwell, the Olympian. We covered the Olympics pretty extensively last year. Conwell has actually had a total of 6 fights now. This was actually the first fight where he went to decision, 6th rounder against Roca Zapata. He dropped him twice in the 3rd round, dropped him once in the 5th round. He's a good fighter. Pretty good boxer puncher. It's kind of funny because he's actually really short. They list him at 5'9" on Boxer, but I think he's actually a little shorter than that. And in the Olympics, he actually fought at 165. So, him fighting at 154, he actually looks even kind of small for that division. But he does have good power. He's a pretty good inside fighter. He's a guy that I think once he gets on the inside, he's going to be real difficult for a lot of guys. But I think he is kind of open to be hit at the mid and long range. So really, I think it would probably favor him to be a lot more aggressive in trying to get inside. Otherwise, he could be potentially a knockout waiting to happen against the guys that can really measure out those kind of long range power shots, like say a Charlo does, like he did to Lubin recently. What do you call it? Trying to think of what the other fight was before the main event.
Bro, why did you have to mention Lubin just to rub it in, bro? Everyone does this to me these days. It's like a common theme in my life now. Everyone just drops in the Lubin comment now and again for no reason.
Yeah, I watched that again the other day. That was good.
Fuck you, Leon.
It's just... I can't remember the names of the other guys in the other fight. Because honestly, I wasn't paying as much attention. It was pretty... looking it up right now. Razab Butayev versus Janeer Gonzalez. That was kind of a preliminary fight. Butayev pretty much handled Gonzalez. Outboxed him, outmuscled him, etc. He's one of these guys from Russia, extensive amateur career. Although he's actually a young guy. He turned pro relatively young compared to a lot of those guys that tend to wait till their late 20s or 30s even. And then the main event was a really good fight. It was basically like kind of a WBC ranking eliminator type fight. It was for the Continental Americas title. Both guys were hurt a number of times in the fight. It was just the outright war. It's like if you want to see just a good, fun, just brawl, Yandel Evans versus Luis Rosa. Very, very good fight. Both were hurt numerous times. Both looked out on their feet on a couple of different occasions, including all the way up until the last round. Evans wound up winning a 10-round split decision. I think Luis Rosa probably should have gotten the decision, but I'm not completely hating on Evans getting it. Evans has one loss. It was a first-round knockout loss to Javier Fortuna, but Fortuna basically caught him cold early. But in spite of the fact that this is a good win for him, I wouldn't favor his chances against the likes of Mares or Santa Cruz stepping up to the full titleist or like Gary Russell, WBC titleist. I don't think he's at that level. I don't think he's at the championship level. But fun. He was a fun fighter. This was a very fun fight, and so I think if he's used as a kind of a stay busy opponent for one of those guys, or at least like maybe somebody to take a step up against him versus somebody like a Mark Magsayo would be a great fight. That's like one of those kind of low key fight of the year candidates between guys that aren't necessarily like an elite fighter. That'd be a really good fight. But that was pretty much the Showbox score.
Neoto, you need to link me this fight, but only HD, man. No 360p streams that you sometimes send from Japan.
of the Titantron inside of the stadium.
Exactly. Are we done for this past weekend, guys? I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah. All
right. News-wise, the world went crazily on when AJ swore and called people out.
Yeah, that was just like a non-event, wasn't it?
The real AJ.
Like, the mask slipped, etc. But yeah, I just liked it because Hearn was obviously shitting himself over in New York, not knowing what was going on. But it was good to see. Like I said to Kimo, I can get behind this stuff. It's like, it's all the other shit we don't want. Like, Ruth's always going to me like, with her fucking AJ obsession, what's your problem with him? And I try and explain it to her, and she just tells me to fucking grow up.
which is kind of fair.
Well, a completely valid point. Like I'm not questioning that, but But I was saying, then I showed her these, and it's like, if it was a bit more like this, I could get more behind it. And then she told me to grow up again.
So you can't really win.
But but I just liked it. Like this, if there's more of this, some more fights might get made quicker as well.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed him calling like Tyson Fury a fat fuck, and
But it's correct. So he's not. So like we can all agree with that. Like he's not saying anything outlandish, really, is he?
No, he's just stating the obvious. But yeah, it's
exactly.
We all kind of knew he's like this, but he's just been this kind of company man and sponsor friendly dude. But like most people that follow him boxing kind of know he's a kind of street dude. So it's nothing new for most people.
But it wasn't like a full on Billy Joe Saunders meltdown. Where he's saying like his opponent got raped by his dad and stuff. It's not exactly. It's not like you're gonna shock your female. The young girls that follow him and stuff. No one's gonna be like, oh my god, I can't believe he said that. Oh, it's terrible. Like he can do this and still be the face of Jaguar and Lucozade. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter, right? They're gonna like it.
Jaguar commercials now too.
Yeah, in the UK.
He's got some Land Rover, which is owned by. He's got some hookups there. Yeah, like, the man's a fucking walking cash machine.
Yeah,
he's got the power. Let it all hang out, man.
Yeah, Leon, that Link sponsorship isn't going to stop because he called Tyson Fury a fat fuck.
Exactly. If he'd gone and said something horrendous about him being from gypsy blood or stock or something, yeah, maybe his sponsors would get upset, but this is nothing. Like, this is what we want to see.
Yeah.
Like, if he gets into this with Wilder, the build-up will be fucking... Like, they saw what happened with Froch and Grove. Like, he needs to let this happen because that Wilder fight could be massive if he has a few more little meltdowns.
Yeah, that'll be.
Well, not meltdowns, just
speaking his mind a bit more.
Truthful as he would speak with his friends. Yeah. That's the thing. We just know that's not how he talks with his mates.
Yeah, that's true. Now to some disappointing news last week. Basically, Mikey said that a 50-50 deal against Linares was not what he wanted. He's gone into a different direction, and basically, it's not being announced, but basically, they're saying it's going to be unification with Robert Easter. How?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, but I mean, that's still a good fight. It's
not the fight. It's not the fight we wanted, though, man.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe it's not, the best fight under ideal circumstances and everything. But I still think it's a very good fight, and it's actually a different type of challenge. So it's not like, if Garcia beats Linares, he automatically beats Easter, or if Garcia beats Easter, he automatically beats Linares. They have very different styles, very different skill sets. So I think it's an intriguing matchup from that regard, as well as the fact that, hey, if Garcia beats Easter, then he pretty much just, may have sunk. Bandcamp Promotions or whatever the hell it's called for the time being until I guess Rashid Warren starts really getting things going at super flyweight. But I mean, the thing is, Garcia, he's going to be favored just about over everybody at lightweight, and he should be. But Easter, especially with this last fight over Shafikov, I think he's gone up a little bit in my estimation, and in spite of the fact that I do think that Shafikov got fucked over on the cards. He was coming on late, especially, but Easter showed a lot of class early in that fight, and so I think he can give Garcia, a fair bit of difficulty as it stands, because the best range, Garcia's best range is also Easter's best range. Really, I think it'll behoove Garcia to be a bit more aggressive and try to fight on the inside more so, even though he tends to favor to be able to shoot power shots from kind of mid-range as opposed to all the way on the inside. So it's an intriguing fight as far as I'm concerned. Easter is a excellent. To me, like, Easter isn't necessarily like completely behind Linares. It's almost like 1A, 1B, or 2A, 2B behind Garcia, really, in terms of where I actually rank them, in terms of ability, skill, and just how good they are, basically. So I'm not terribly mad at it. I think it's a good fight.
Just as high as I am on Garcia, I just feel that with him taking more business control, it seems a bit diva-esque now. He's like, oh, well, 50-50 is not good enough for me. I'm going to go into a different direction. Oscar probably also wanted some maybe promotional rights with him. So, well, if you do fight my guy and you beat him, then, I get to promote you for a couple fights, which is quite standard, but the way, Mikey got handled with the Arum, like, you can tell he doesn't want to be tied into any type of contracts. I don't know if that is the case, but usually, especially with the Golden Boy having no one really left, and, Linares being one of their stars now, I could see him wanting to put something like that into the deal, but I just find it disappointing just because that's the fight I really wanted. I wanted Linares versus Mikey.
Yeah, I think Mikey just took more money. Heyman probably offered more money for Easter, and he'll pick up that strap, and then the Linares fight becomes bigger anyway. So I don't think it's that huge a deal, to be honest.
You're probably right. I just see, like, the longer this fight is delayed, something will interrupt it. Linares will lose against someone that we didn't expect it, or, he goes out with a long injury, or the fight just never happens. But hopefully I'm wrong, but we'll see.
And the other thing is, if he's kind of doing stuff with Heyman, I don't know, is he a Heyman client? No, I don't. Has he got dealings with Heyman? Because Heyman doesn't care where you fight, really, now, I think, as long as you're getting paid.
Yeah, like, Heyman seems a lot less interested in, what side you're on these days, which is a good thing, I think.
I've done, as Chu would say, a 360.
I don't think Heyman's ever really cared, honestly. I think it was everybody else caring who his fighters were promoted by, more so than vice versa.
That's true, actually.
I think you're right. Like, I've changed my take on Heyman. It's taken us a while. I'm not saying that he's doing everything perfect, but I feel like he's willing to let his guys just do what they have to do as long as the deal's right.
Right. And
I think he's really done just as well as anyone recently in America. He's promoted as well as, or maybe not promoted, but the matchups has been as good as anyone from whatever. I don't know how many fucking sides there are over there anymore. I lose track, but you know what I mean. He's done as much as the rest of the guys.
Yeah. All right. Any news that you guys have seen throughout the week that you want to talk about?
Kazuto Ioka apparently decided to vacate his WBA title. I don't know what the hell's going on with the guy. Like, supposedly people are saying that he might retire. Because it's really strange that he would just suddenly vacate his title. But I don't know. He's been having all kinds of issues with his dad because his dad actually promotes him. His uncle, of course, was a great fighter in his own right. All right, yeah, my bad. His uncle promotes him. His dad trains him. He's had all kinds of issues with his dad. He married some. Did he marry her? I think he married her. Some pop singer over in Japan, and his dad criticized him for that shit. And he basically said that Ioka's not ready for this fight and that fight. And he was supposed to fight Zhou Shiming within this past year, and that never happened because of his pops. And so it's just everything's been frustrating the guy, and who knows where his head is at. He's on some Keith Thurman trip to the space age or some shit right now. It's unfortunate because I think he's still really the premier fighter at flyweight ever since Gonzalez and Estrada moved up. And I would have loved to have seen a fight between him and Daigo Higa to see the potential passing of the torch for the next true star at the lower weights. But it looks like his title's probably going to be contested for by Artem Dalakian, and I think it was Sirochek Tayen. Dalakian from where is he from? I think he's from the Ukraine rather, and then Tayen is from Thailand, as his name would kind of suggest. And unfortunately, I don't think either of those guys are really on the level of an Ioka. So his lack of presence at flyweight, I think, kind of leaves a bit of a gap there. So flyweight may be a lot more wide open than I even mentioned that it kind of was to begin with, considering the exit of a couple of the better fighters in the weight range, not just the weight class.
Regarding him vacating, it could also be maybe if he retires, it might get him out of the contract he's got or something, because it all depends on the stipulations written into it. So you could get out of it and then unretire and basically be a free agent. So maybe there's some method behind the madness.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that, considering all the shit that's gone on. But I mean, he's looked really impressive in his last couple of fights. So to me, there was nothing as far as him, losing his focus on the sport so much as maybe just being frustrated with the people that he's around. He actually moved to Tokyo. He's originally from Osaka, lived there all his life, and maybe it's just one of those cases like you're kind of mentioning, where it's he needs to get away from his dad, like Floyd did, like Roy Jones did. Not to compare him talent-wise to those guys, but on a certain level, he almost is kind of what those guys were to the U.S. To Japan. He was the highest-rated fighter from a television ratings basis up until the recent emergence of Naoya Inoue and Ryota Murata on the scene. So he's kind of carried that torch for just about the past half decade and then some. So he may be doing it for his own sake. He's still a young guy, 28. He's only had 23 fights. The only loss that he has is to I'm Not Wrong, which was a close decision loss as well. So I think he still has plenty in the tank. Even if he does lay off for a year or two, I don't think it'll necessarily hurt him individually, but I think it kind of hurts what the talent factor at flyweight.
Yep. Anything else you guys have seen?
It was just quickly. I was bit randomly, but you mentioned Keith Thurman there. I was thinking about Keith Thurman after our conversation last week, and he's a weirdo, right? And then I was listening to a Parliament record, and he's like the George Clinton of boxing, isn't he? You like him, but he's a full weirdo, and you're pretty sure he's on a lot of drugs. He's a weird fucking dude. I've been thinking more and more about that. He's fucking a space cadet, man.
He is.
I watched some interviews and stuff. He might never come back. He could just do something really weird, become a tree surgeon or something. He's an odd fella. But yeah, I thought he was definitely the George Clinton of boxing. He's an odd man.
To your point, though, I could see him just like retiring and just not coming back. He does seem like that type of person. Like boxing, it's not important to him.
If he does do that, like, fair play to him. I don't care, but like, I just don't want him just being a weirdo out in the middle of the forest somewhere, and still holding onto a belt and holding up the division. Like, if you want to be a weirdo, get on with it and do your thing. And not a weirdo, that's not fair. If you just want to go and be who you are, fine. But just us hanging around for you to wait to do something while you come off your mushroom high up in the mountains is getting a bit tedious.
Yeah. Naoto, there was some question in the chat that you want to respond to, was it?
People were asking about Lucas Matisse's next opponent here, Tirachai Kratingdenjim, a.k.a. His real name is Tera Kiram. He's a pretty good fighter out of Thailand. I wouldn't necessarily put him on the level of a Wenheng or a knockout CP Freshmart or a Srisaket in terms of his ability, but he's a good fighter. He's a tough, he has a little bit more of that kind of typical like tough man Thai style, stiff jab. Is kind of loading up on the right hand behind the jab, and he comes at you. He really comes forward at you, really trying to make his presence known. So that could be a good thing for him or a bad thing for him. It really all depends on if he's able to take Matisse's power. Because if he is and he's starting to push Matisse back, I think I've seen Matisse get a little bit skittish on guys that are able to kind of walk him down, as kind of like Molina did, for instance. But I'm not sure if he himself has the power, because this is a big step up for him. He's never fought outside of Thailand, from what I know. And we'll see if he has the power to really put Matisse on notice in that factor. Because it could be a case where he's able to take Matisse's back shots and he's able to kind of walk him down and tire him out. Or it could be a case of he's a little bit too open for Matisse to just unload on him and Matisse gets him out of there. But I think he'll be a fun opponent to watch against him.
Yeah, I love Lucas, but he just lets you down. He's that best friend that you have that always says, yeah, I'll come round and see you, or let's meet up, but he always just never comes, man. Like, Lucas, man, why do you just always break my heart?
Or the friend who gets so drunk and disgraces himself and like throws up on a bouncer's shoe and trips coming out of the club, smashes his head, and his soul leaves for a cut.
That sounds like someone I know.
Yeah. Just quickly, like, I was thinking about, they're saying there's no news, and we're probably not going to get a lot more news, are we? Like, I think it's kind of, there's not going to be many more fights made before the end of the year.
No.
But the one thing that did slip by me, I've just been reminded of it, is that Stephen Smith is fighting Francisco Vargas.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Slipped by me too, then.
Yeah, he might get fully iced.
When is this? And
he's
why
he's on that Salido and Farmer. Salido versus Miguel Roman, and Farmer versus some other dude. And so that's like December the 9th, Cam.
Wow, so
that's on them HBOs. That's that Matchroom USA effect.
Alright, so it's basically Eddie just cashing him out now, or what?
Oh, fully. He's been cashing him out. Just send him away. When did he last fought at home as a headliner? Never. Like last 3 years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
He's the Smith that everyone likes, and he's the one who gets treated like shit by Hearn. Although, I mean, he's got him shots, but I mean, he's had to travel for every single one of them.
Yeah. But yeah, that's not
a good fight.
That's not a bad card, to be honest. Just looking at it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's just like filled with guys kind of below the top level of super featherweight. Really.
I just think in that the date for Lomachenko versus Rigo. Though.
Yep.
Why do they do this to themselves, man? I swear, like, boxing is the worst sometimes.
That's busy though, isn't it? Because they've got Miguel Cotto the week before, and then they've got Billy Joe. But Billy Joe Lemieux isn't a particularly big fight, is it? I mean, they're just cramming it all in, aren't they, at the end of the year again?
Yeah, but
because HBO's got quite a lot of fights. I'm just looking at this HBO schedule now. Like from November 25th, they've got 4 weekends of like reasonably good cards.
They always do that though. They have absolutely nothing, and then just like do what you do when you're in high school and basically study for all your exams in 1 week.
Exactly. Like yeah, that's it, isn't it? And then I don't see Eddie Hearn releasing any more cards. They might do some weird like next gen Christmas cracker special, you know, like they have to fight in fucking Santa outfits or something. Imagine that, like fake snow in the ring. Oh, it'd be amazing.
And Woodhouse dressed as an elf.
Oh, but do you know what would be good if Anthony Fowler had to fight a full-grown moose? That moose would batter him. I'd pay to watch that. I'd pay £15 to see that.
Yeah, pay-per-view. All right, any other news?
I'm actually kind of surprised that I haven't heard too much about the Japan New Year's cards either.
Yeah, it's pretty
kind of quiet.
Low-key. Do you think they're going to give this one a miss this year or what?
No. Well, I know Kenshiro is going to be on there. I'm just not sure who else, because I'm pretty sure Murata isn't, because he's got a title now, so I'm sure he's kind of ramping up. Aram's trying to work out some things to get him there, get him some big fights against the other big names in the other division, or at the very least build him up in the U.S. and then get him a big name over there. Inoue there's a good likelihood that he'll wind up being on the Superfly 2 card, where it's all but announced with Sri Saket versus Estrada. So Inoue will probably be fighting somebody on that undercard. And then the possibility of Gonzalez versus Yafai is out there. I'm not sure how far along or how likely that is at this moment. But yeah, outside of Shiro, it's going to be difficult, because I know Kosi Tanaka, he got his orbital bone fractured in the fight that he won, his last fight. And then Taguchi was trying to get a fight with Tanaka, so I'm not sure if he'll just wait that out and try and fight Tanaka early next year. I think Kyoguchi will probably be on there, but I think it won't be quite as action-packed as the last couple of years, where it was like 7 or 8 world title fights within 2 days, within the span of 24 hours. It might wind up just being like 3 or 4 or something if things kind of work out okay. Luis Neri and Shinsuke Yamanaka, they got ordered for a rematch, but Yamanaka will probably want to have a nice, long full camp to be able to prepare for whatever Neri's got in store for him in the rematch. So
another beating.
It's just. I'm sorry.
Another beating.
Yeah, most likely. I just can't see what he does different to win that fight, except give freaking drug Neri in the bad way.
Cam.
Yes.
Is James? Did I hear right that James DeGale is fighting Caleb Truex? I can't. Someone pronounce that for me.
Truex.
Caleb Truex. Yeah, Truex. That's it. Yeah. Is that definitely announced, or is that just some rumor I heard?
As far as I know, it's a rumor. It's still TBA on BoxRec, but they're not always 100% up to date. So.
Well, that's got. That's a shabby card if you haven't got any opponents yet, isn't it?
Well, Yard's fighting Serge Locker, and Daniel Dubois fighting Dorian Darch, basically that heavyweight that Anthony Joshua fought a couple of years ago that looks like a big George Groves. So
Yard's fighting a super middleweight?
Basically, yeah, but that's nothing new these days, is it?
That chin in it, Cam.
Yep. Alright, anything else?
No, not on the news front.
Alright,
let's get to the wee man.
Let's start previewing then. I'll go through it timeline-wise. So Friday we got Anthony Dirrell versus Mama's boy Dennis Duglin. That's on USA Fox Sports 1 on the
rubbish.
Friday. Yeah, it's pretty rubbish.
Mama's boy versus Uncle's boy.
On the Saturday,
that mama would knock Uncle out.
Serious, man.
She would batter him.
Mama said that.
Exactly.
On the Saturday at the Cosmopolitan, we got J-Rock versus Ishe Smith. I'm kind of happy to see J-Rock back. I know he has fought in between. I know Leon was talking about it a couple of weeks ago. He has fought in between that Charlo loss, but it was kind of undercover. Came back quite quiet, but the rest of the card's pretty hopeless. And
Ishe Smith, he's the one who's got teeth like a pie cutter, isn't he? like for cutting out cake shapes. He's got some fucked up teeth. That one.
Yeah.
Ishe hasn't been in the ring in over a year too.
J-Rock's going to get a lovely knockout on that one, I think.
Yeah, I'm forward to getting J-Rock back in the mix, man, because he's an exciting fighter, and 154 is kind of bubbling up a bit.
I'm not sure he'll knock Smith out, though. He's he's relatively durable and he knows how to.
We live in hope. We live in hope.
Yeah, we'll see.
And then Saturday, I guess, is the card of the weekend, really. Ancast versus Jamie Conlon for the IBF Flyweight Superfly strap. Tate's fighting someone who God knows who. He'll bore us for 12, maybe like 8-9 rounds and then probably stop him or a bad stoppage. Frampton's fighting Horacio Garcia. Like, I need to quiz Naota because I've not managed to get some time to watch him.
I haven't found
Garcia.
much of him, Cam. I tried to look a bit.
That's never a good sign, Leon.
But I might have been looking badly and probably spelling his name wrong, Cam. You know what I'm like.
Well, his most
likely.
significant fight, he got schooled by Jojo Diaz.
Oh, shit.
And,
that's
lost
what I
every
saw.
round.
That's what I saw a bit of. It was boring. I had to turn that off.
Actually, I may have watched that fight, actually. Yeah, it does kind of ring a bell. But yeah, it's what should we start? I guess the best fight nailed on that card, really, is the Uncast versus Jamie Conlon fight.
Oh, yeah. I think this is probably the moment where we're going to see kind of what I predicted for Conlon all along whenever he decided to step up.
Beaten.
He's probably going to get iced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that this is going to end well for him. And it's really just a matter of he gets hit too easy. And not only when you combine that with somebody like Ankaz, who's actually pretty explosive, it's very appropriate, I think, that he's promoted by Manny Pacquiao because the shots that he's able to kind of land from the outside coming in are very, Pacquiao-esque. He's a very good right hook and a really, really nice left cross. And good body shots, too. He scored a knockout to the body in his last fight against Kinoshita, which was on the Pacquiao Horn undercard. If Conlon manages to get on the inside, Ankaz can fight extremely well there as well. He's pretty difficult to hit, and he's just better. I mean, he's just more talented than Conlon, on top of being more skilled. So I think Conlon, he's a fun fighter to watch. He'll be scrappy in there. He'll try to have a go of it, but I think he'll, Jaron Ankaz will see the green light that means go and run his ass over after about 7 or 8 rounds. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's going to be like one of those situations where he knocks him out early. I think it's going to be kind of a prolonged beatdown with a final icing that looks pretty ugly
On the cake.
Yeah.
Leon, I've only seen Ankaz twice, but you and me have seen Jamie a number of times, and he's always in a war, and he's took a lot of punishment to get into a title position, and I think like he's kind of maybe took too much out of him, and the bits that I have seen him Ankaz, he is pretty good. So unless it's some type of weird robbery where he does manage to see the 12 rounds and then Warren basically pays someone off, I don't see that happening. So I do favour maybe a late stoppage of Conlon after.
Yeah, I do as well, but there's that kind of like 10% of me that thinks like he could have a performance of his life and it could be the last, and then he's got nothing left, like he's done after it. So there's that 10% of me that thinks that that's achievable. But the one thing about Jamie is, he'll go out with an oxygen mask on. He'll leave it all out there, and he's given us fights of the years against guys he should have beaten earlier, and I don't know if that goes to his talent or more his temperament, where he just gets dragged into these things. So I've only seen Ankaz once, and if he looks like a dangerous puncher, so it could end badly, but there also could be like that kind of Cinderella Man story as well. Yeah. So it makes it exciting. Like, it's a really great fight, that. Like, because there's that little chance that Jamie's got the balls to win it.
Yeah.
So I live in hope for him, because I like him. So I'd like him to win, but I mean, I don't see it happening.
It's crazy, Jamie, because we kind of expected him to be in a war all the time, and like the odd occasion he'd like box, and it was kind of boring. Then the next fight he'd go back to being in a war, and it's a lot of punishment to take, as you're trying to get into a title position. And yeah, I think you're right. I think, even if he kind of like went ahead and won, like he's probably took so much out of him that he'd probably just retire or have a nice easy defense in Ireland and then retire after that, because it's so much punishment on the body, man. Because I remember a few fights. Remember the one that was Ireland, and the guy like threw 40 shots at him, and any other referee would have stopped it, and then.
Yeah, who was that? The one with begins with G.
Granados, I think it was.
Yeah.
Junior Granados. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah. And then that Fight of the Year contender against Anthony Nelson, like, I still watch that fight. I think, oh shit, like, as much as I love, like Morales, Barrera and stuff, like, I didn't watch a lot of those fights live. And when you see a Fight of the Year live, it's a whole different experience, in my opinion.
It is, but.
Yeah, it is.
Jamie does, you're reminding me now, he does get hurt, doesn't he, a little bit?
Yeah.
Like, not enough to stop him, but he gets hurt, where this guy looks like he's got enough to stop him. But I think it's going to be really good fun while it lasts. Yeah. But, like, you're right.
That's it's just he gets hit so clean. That's the thing with him. And
if he wins...
Like, so he's been hurt by guys that aren't even necessarily big punchers. And,
yeah. If he wins, he's going to have gone through hell to get it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good whatever happens. It'll probably be terrible now, won't it?
Yeah, we just fucking jinxed the shit out of that fight now. It's going to be a boring 12-rounder. But just quickly on Frampton, like it's difficult, like we've just mentioned that we don't really see much of his opponent, and it is a homecoming fight. And I don't know, like Jamie Moore. He's from my hometown, but it seems he's getting a bit of too much heat these days. Like, what have you really done? Like, you've taken over the reins of training Carl Frampton from Shane McGuigan, but
it's the he's becoming their Sims.
Yeah, it's like he's getting all this like props for nothing. Like who's his best fighter up to this date?
But they obviously already like him and think he's doing something for them, because I don't think they're all that complete sheep. Like someone like Frampton doesn't strike me like that. He's going to do it with no thought behind it. But it does feel like you're signing with us. Can you choose one of our guys? And I'm just underwhelmed by the whole thing. I think I was really excited about it, and I am about Frampton. But it's kind of like we're starting again a bit with him. So. This hasn't been that exciting, but I'm sure they'll come up with some good fights. But that's how I feel a bit meh.
You make a good point though, because you almost think, well, Frampton, what more is he going to learn at this stage? There's not really much he can add to his game, really. So he's probably thinking, well, they're offering me this deal. They're saying, okay, come over with the get trained by Jamie. So he's probably not too fussed, really, is he?
I think he left. Look, I'll be honest. I think I might be wrong, but deep down he might have wanted to stay with Shane, but because of the way it split, he couldn't have done anything else. Because I don't see Moore doing anything that Shane wouldn't do.
Yeah.
It's an odd one. He's not going to a guy who's got this kind of really defined style, who really kind of, like when sometimes you'll get a Brit who goes and tries to learn off a Cuban and it all goes fucking horribly wrong and they get iced. But, it's that kind of... He's not going to one of those kind of guys who's, like, very much of a style. He's just going to this guy where none of us are sure what he's going to produce from someone.
Yeah.
So it's a risk.
It is indeed.
I think any fight is a risk for him, and so they're just biting the bullet and throwing him in to see what happens.
Nelson, what do you think? Like, most likely he'll get past this test. After that, like... Do they wait for the Warrington-Selby fight to happen and he fights the winner, or do you think they'll put him into a biggish fight against someone else before that?
Well, I mean, I still wonder if he's first of all, if he's going to make weight, and secondly, if he's going to be able to continue to make weight. Because, I mean, in spite of the fact that he's short, he's not small. I mean, I hear a lot of people saying that he's not a small guy. He's short.
No, he's stocky,
short.
Isn't he?
Yeah, he's like Cotto was, at 140 and 147 and everything. I don't know, man. I just don't like Frampton's chances. The higher he goes in weight, and unfortunately for him, I think that seems to be his most likely future.
because I do think that the likes of Warrington and Selby will wind up not fighting him, and he'll wind up having to fight somebody like fucking Miguel Berchelt or something stupid, and it probably won't end particularly well for him.
They've got to make that Russell fight. I know, like
that'd be a very good fight, and I think
that's
it's
a proper
pretty
fight.
Winnable one for him. I think it's actually a pretty winnable one for him because of the fact that Russell, that he is open enough in a lot of those flurries that he throws that Frampton could land one of those just clean right hands on him. You know, I could see that happening.
I think it's a nice matchup, though, isn't it? Style-wise,
I think
it works well.
Tagline.
That's what I would want to do.
Tagline battle.
And the thing about Russell
T-Rex
is
arms.
his mind is like everywhere and nowhere at the same time. That you know he's talking about retiring all the time, and then he's talking about wanting to fight Lomachenko a second time, but he's not actually doing anything to really make that fight mandated.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Frampton could catch him slipping and be able to get a fucking nice win under his belt with that.
No, I'm.
Hit me with that tagline, Cam. What's that tagline?
Battle of the T-Rex arms.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Classic.
Oh, Jurassic Park, it could be called.
Yeah, that shit writes itself.
Yeah.
Any other cards this weekend, Naota, that are notable?
Not. I'm trying to look around here.
There's not much, is there? I couldn't see anything today.
Yeah, not too much.
I'm actually glad, man. You know, like when you need one of those weekends where you can just chill and not watch like a ridiculous amount of boxing.
Yeah.
There's kind of an interesting thing that I noticed on the schedule that I have, though. A guy that's rated pretty highly. He might wind up as like a future Superfly opponent or something of that nature. This guy Juan Jurado from Argentina. He's fighting this weekend. He's like basically like a showcase for him, but he's the WBO Latino Super Flyweight champion. Only has one knockout, but if you actually watch him fight, he's like you would expect him to be like a knockout puncher because like he's like just high pressure, high volume, but he has like no power. So it's one of those situations where he's very highly rated, and that may get him a significant fight where he gets completely demolished because nobody's afraid of what's coming back at him.
You guys remember when Chu made that statement about Japanese fighters outside of Japan?
Oh, yeah.
I kind of follow that statement with Argentines. Like, they're great in Argentina, but like, soon as they go out, like, they're shit, man, or they perform very badly. Remember our boy, Leon, that we were high on for 2 fights?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't trust him, man.
Who are you talking about?
The guy that got
He was after the TBE.
The guy that beat...
Oh, Cuenca, yeah.
Yeah.
Cuenca, yeah. Yeah, man. These,
the Thai TBE, what is he fighting in like 2 weeks, I think?
2 weeks,
We'll preview that next week, yeah. Wenheng Manayothin. Coming for that record, man.
Is it actual like 12-rounder, or is it another like fucking 8-rounder like he often does?
This one I'm pretty sure is for his title.
Title shot, yeah.
Yeah. So that would be 49. It would be 49 have tried and failed. So let's see.
Magnificent.
That's right. He's fighting the former WBO champ Tatsuya Fukuhara. So that's actually a pretty legit challenge for him. I think Fukuhara has certain things that he does. He lost his title kind of controversially, so I mean he's still probably one of the top 5 guys at strawweight. And he does certain things that I think can give Manayothin a lot of difficulty because Manayothin tends to like to fight at range, but he's kind of a short guy to be doing that, and Fukuhara is a couple inches taller than him.
Thank you, Naota. All right, anything else, guys, before we wrap it up?
No, man.
No problem. We'll call it a night. Big props and thank you to Jas. It was great having him on the show, man. Pleasure. Supported us from day one, and nice to have him on. Naota, Leon, always a pleasure with you guys. Thank you to all the people in the chat and all the people that download the show week in, week out. We'll be back next week. Peace.
You just listened to the Boxing Coalition.
Dude, man, I love boxing. I fucking love boxing.
A big shout out to the Boxing Coalition.
You're a newbie.
No, I ain't new, man. If my fucking next door neighbour became the #1 flyweight in the world, you know what I'd do? I'd fucking walk past the cunt.
Derek, how you doing, bro?
I was physically bun you, blood.
I disagree.
First time I hear the show, man, it was fucking badass.
Vamos a Argentina, la concha de su madre.
I see the bomb in them.
I get home and she's like, what the fuck? Me and the kid are here. Why don't you get home and talk to us? I'm like, man, you guys don't know shit about boxing.
Kel, how does it feel to be the new IBF champion?
Feels great. Did we really dive into the black hole right off the jump?
I think he's hiding glass. Just to play devil's advocate.
You want 1 portion of crow or 2 portions of crow?
Give me 2 portions with a supersized fries and a large drink, please.
I can't stand him, what? I'm Scottish.
Cringe side?
But you won't rush Anthony fucking fat ass Joshua, would you?
He's not fat.
How about you tell us what you weigh for your final thoughts?
My weight?
Thank you for listening to the Boxing Coalition. We are live every Monday, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. UK time, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern.